now like coming into the mental health space and the psychological space, it's like, well, if athletes who we all look up to, if they can be seen talking about their own struggles and vulnerability, then it makes it okay for the rest of us.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I said, I am grateful to have you on, but I think when we were talking about having you on, I think a good place to start is with your dad, because I know I played footy with your older brother Morgan.
Yes.
And so I do.
I know, we actually go way back.
We go way back.
Titans days.
That was like, that was like another lifetime ago. But I'd like to start with, firstly, what happened?
Yeah.
What happened with your old man, and if you are comfortable talking about that.
So long story short, because it is a long story, and I often say that, and then it ends up being long anyway. But grew up. One of 5 kids on the farm down in just outside of Cobargo, cute little town.
Little country town.
Little country town on a farm. I think I was 12 at the time, and my brother was 14, and the rest of us were like, two years. Anyway, my dad had a farming accident and was fixing an irrigation system, and it either hit him in the head or he fell off while fixing it. Like, they're not like
an irrigation. So I don't know what an
like
irrigation
it's like a
is.
big like it's a big like watering kind, like fertilizing and watering thing that it moves around. Anyway, it hit him or he fell off, and he had severe impact to the head and bleeding from the brain. It was a cold day, which actually saved him from dying straight away, which is good. It was a day in September, and he had a beanie on. So 2 good things already off the back.
And he was by himself at the time.
Yeah. So my pop noticed that the cows weren't being milked, and I've jumped into this story, but he's a dairy farmer.
He's a farmer,
Dairy farmer. Anyway, my pop noticed that the cows weren't being milked, went and had a look for my dad, and found him, pretty much brown bread.
How long after?
Oh, maybe like a couple of hours, But found him on the motorbike, and then obviously they don't have phones or anything like that, so go to the closest neighbour, call an ambo. So he ended up getting an ambulance and had to get airlifted to Canberra. He was obviously unconscious. Pretty sure they told Morgan to say goodbye to him, which is pretty hectic. At the time, he would have been 14. Morgan was there, but we were actually at our athletics carnival when it happened. Dad wanted to take us up, and I'm like, no way, Dad, you're not taking us. We want to go shopping and stuff. You'll just go up and back in the same day.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this has happened on the day we're supposed to have this athletics carnival. So we were already in Canberra. I didn't know how severe it was, or they just told us that Dad had an accident. I'm like, yeah, sweet, Dad does stupid shit all the time. It's so fine. Meanwhile, he's in an induced coma in ICU in Canberra. Anyway, I think it's still all sweet, and I go to my athletics carnival the next day because I'd been training, that was what I was doing.
Young athlete coming through.
And didn't realise how severe it was until everyone at the athletics carnival was like, I'm so sorry to hear about your dad. I'm like, he's not dead, what's going on? And then I turned up to the hospital, and every single person I knew was in the waiting room, and pretty.
So that's kind of when it hits. This might be a little bit more serious than we thought.
Yeah, I'm like, what's everyone doing here? Anyway, so he was, had a traumatic brain injury, hit to the head, severe bleeding on the brain, and they didn't know whether he would wake up, whether he would be able to speak, walk, spinal. They just had no idea. So fast forward a little bit, he ended up waking up from his coma, which was really good. He could speak, but his memory had totally vanished for 10 years, 10, 15 years.
10 years prior.
Yeah. He thought he was still playing footy for the Raiders.
Really?
So funny. He's I wish we had have documented all of the stuff that happened, because it was actually insane, but we were just in fear the whole time. And it wasn't really a thing that.
And grateful that he came out of the country as well.
Fully. Yeah. So it was such a roller coaster of I'm downplaying how fucked it was.
But that's what was the time like? Because I imagine there would probably be a time in the hospital when all your family's there. Like how do you react in that time in the hospital?
Yeah, I mean, we were still very like, I still had no doubt in my mind that like, no, my dad's sweet. He's just, you know, he needs to get better. I was still very young, and they obviously filled us with a lot of false hope, but like it worked.
Yeah.
So yeah, very hard though. As it went on longer, it probably got harder because he wasn't the person that he was, and he still had to do all this rehab to get back to where he was, like walking and talking, and his memory, and he had post-traumatic amnesia, which is like, it was like 50 First Dates. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah,
like every day you wake up, you're just like, no idea what's going on, who I was, who his family was. Like
he didn't know.
Yeah, he'd think that I was a nurse one day, and then he'd think that like, and he wouldn't even know all this stuff now. Like he's made an amazing recovery now, but like at the time, and like for the years afterwards, it was a crazy.
And I know you're playing it down, but that I couldn't imagine like your dad, like, and obviously had a big injury, but like doesn't remember his family, doesn't remember you. I thought you were a nurse. Like that's got to be so hard, Mill.
Yeah.
Like that's got to be tough.
No, it was so hard. Obviously having a big family as well, like it just became our norm. Mum spent so much time at the hospital, and then he ended up getting moved to Sydney as well. So like we were 5 hours away from the hospital. So we all had to still go to school. I remember like packing lunches for my sisters, like going to school. Morgan would be doing all the stuff on the farm to get everyone, you know, make sure everything was working. I'd do all the indoor stuff. Like it really does mature you at a rate that's a lot faster than the average 12, 13-year-old.
So your mum would be with your dad in the hospital in Sydney, and then you, I guess, would be like raising the kids while Boyley's, your brother, is doing the farm.
Doing the farm, yeah.
Far out.
Yeah, so hectic.
And how long did that go on for?
He was in hospital for like, definitely in for like 5 months of like just solid hospital, and then like back and forth like a lot. So it was so tough. Like the things that he would do, and the brain is just insane. Like his brain was telling him that one day he'd be at work, so he like would just pick up this like imaginary crowbar and start like digging a hole in the hospital, like thinking that he was doing that. The next day he asked me to like pass him this, and he got like a temper quite easily because of just how crazy everything was. He asked me to pass him this cupcake, and I'm like, that's not a cupcake. Like, and he's like, yes, pass me the fucking cupcake. It was a bar of soap, and he ate a full bar of soap just like thinking it was a cupcake because his brain told him it was a cupcake.
Yeah.
Like,
how wild is the brain?
Just so crazy. And I'm like, wait, is this my dad? Like, what is doing? Like, it was so hectic. And then it really did play such a big part in our family, and you know, it took us apart for such a long time physically, and then emotionally as well. And then he ended up coming home. He had, like I said, a lot of depression, obviously a lot of trauma around this injury, and not being the person that he was, and being told that he'd never be able to do the things that he once did. So that was really hard for him, hard for us, and it just got worse and kind of spiraled. My parents ended up breaking up from it, and sold the family farm, and you know, did the whole mum, dad living separately, and the kids and everything. So that was really tough. My younger sister was 4 when that all happened. So yeah, it's been really tough for everyone in a different way, because they've all been at different kind of stages of their life. So yeah, it was really challenging.
Mill, thanks. Thank you so much for sharing. Like it's honestly incredible. And I know it's hard. Like I know it's hard to talk about it. And I do think that there'll be probably not so many people in a similar situation, because your dad's got a very unique story, but even like the separation bit, going through struggling times. What are the biggest things that you took away from that experience? Because I look at you as someone now who doesn't really sweat the little things. Like after going through something that's so hard, like, what would be the biggest thing that you took away from it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I do not sweat the little things, because like not that you've got to think like there's always something worse happening, but like there genuinely is. So like scale it into like how relevant is this for right now, for this week, and I guess this year, like is it going to have an effect? But like for me and through that time, like which is probably why I like have always loved footy so much and always continued to play it even when it wasn't really a popular thing. Like it's always made me a lot closer to Dad because of footy. It's been something we've always like bonded over and connected over, and like it was not gonna lie, a struggle for like 10 years post his accident. I meet people even now like who have had TBIs through my program, just jumping back on all of that, but like seeing how they are now and like almost giving them a bit of hope of how it can get better if they're like new to having a TBI, because obviously it's a disability, like to an extent, if it does, you know, intellectually and physically, like it can be anything. But I don't think my dad had enough hope at that stage, like because the doctors and nurses just kind of tell you black and white how it is, but like he is doing so well. You would honestly not even know that.
I was going to say, how is he now?
Yeah, so good, like absolutely thriving, doing so much better than before even, which is crazy. Like he's a butcher, he runs the butcher shop in town, like still got the farm, like just loving life. Like he's so good, loves his footy, loves everything, and talk to him all the time. Like he's
and also how's the relationship with your dad now?
Yeah.
Like obviously tricky, very tricky 10 years. Like how is it now?
Yeah, so good. Like better than ever, because like I said, I'm so lucky that we've had footy to be able to keep that connection and that bond there, but also use that as like a little catalyst for everything. But no, he's I'm grateful for the experiences that I've had and being able to deal with that in a way that is from a family member's point of view, and then also be able to help others that are going through similar things, I guess.